Let me just talk, unfortunately.
It is.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the German Township Trustees to order. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Heaston, could we have the roll call, please?
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Cross,
Here.
Mr. Stubbs,
Here.
Mr. Potter. Here. All are present.
Change up the order a little bit. Before visitor comments, we're going to
Swear in.
swear in Police Chief Birch.
Cheers. All right. In front of the camera.
In front of the camera.
Although I don't see it. Oh, there it is.
It's going, it's going.
There you go.
All right, so we're going to swear in Sergeant Shane Birch as Chief Shane Birch. So would you please raise your right hand? I state your name.
I, Christopher Shane Birch,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of Police Chief
and will faithfully discharge the duties of Police Chief
of German Township in Montgomery County, State of Ohio,
of German Township in Montgomery County, State of Ohio,
during my continuance in office.
during my continuance in office.
By acknowledging my oath of office,
By acknowledging my oath of office,
I am subscribing to the German Township Police Department's mission
I am subscribing to the German Township Police Department's mission
to proudly serve the community with integrity,
to proudly serve the community with integrity,
dedication, and honor
dedication, and honor,
by a continued commitment to excellence in all aspects of police service,
by a continued commitment to excellence in all aspects of police service,
through innovation,
through innovation,
community policing,
community policing,
increased training,
increased training,
and education,
and education.
and that at all times,
And at all times,
I will strive to demonstrate by example
I will strive to demonstrate by example
my commitment to honesty,
my commitment to honesty,
fairness, compassion, morality,
fairness, compassion, morality,
and
and
professionalism.
professionalism.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. If you came just for the swearing in, you can certainly leave,
Thank you.
or
sir.
you can stick around for the meeting. Thanks, Jim. This time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce 2 resolutions for the electric and gas aggregation programs. Mr. Garrett doesn't have to stick around for that.
The first one will be number 58.
I'd like to introduce Resolution 2023-58 to approve the electric aggregation program for German Township, Montgomery County Operations and Governance Plan.
Second.
Any discussion of the resolution? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Dr. Cross,
Yes,
Mr. Stubbs,
Yes.
Mr. Potter.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-58 is adopted. The next one's number 59, obviously.
I'd like to introduce Resolution 2023-59 to approve the natural gas governmental aggregation program for German Township, Montgomery County Operations and Governance Plan.
Second.
Any discussion of this resolution? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Dr. Cross,
Yes,
Mr. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mr. Potter.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-59 is adopted.
so basically, since we've got these resolutions, we can go forward with Mr. Garrett's company Trey Bell giving us the best rates possible. It's going to be a couple months before that happens. Do you have any Yeah, if you could.
Yeah, so this is the first,
Could you introduce yourself?
oh, I'm Joe Garrett with Traybell Energy. We're the consultant for the township on the aggregation programs. So this is first step on getting certified. So you have to be certified by the PUCO as an aggregator. You have to do this first step. Since you've adopted this, that allows us, we will fill out the application to the PUCO. It includes resolutions through the Board of Elections that fiscal officers already sent us that are stamped. Then we will wait for them to approve. They approve, then we can move forward with getting data from utilities, which then allows us to then start gathering pricing. So we're probably looking at, assuming we get some good pricing, a March or an April, May start date would be my guess. You will get 2 likely questions. I just like to throw those out there because by the time we get there, to March, I don't say everybody forgets. One big question you'll get is when the opt-out letters do go out, once the supplier's selected, opt-out process, people get to say, hey, you're automatically going in unless you want to opt out. You will have residents who will call and say, I didn't get one. They want to be in the program. They say, I didn't get a letter. People call. And usually then you guys turn around when you'll call me and say, hey, not everybody's getting them. At which point I usually will say, if they have an alternate supplier, they won't automatically go in. So we will have a letter that we give you guys that you can post that explain, for all the folks that have an alternate supplier, if you want to be in the program, here's what you need to do. Here's the questions you should ask. And here's our phone number if you want more help. Call us. Because everybody forgets that. They just think they got excluded and, they may have voted for it. And the part of, if you're with the utility, you automatically go in. If you have an alternate supplier, you don't. You have to act to get in. And that's just the rules of how it works. So just keep that in mind moving forward, because I'm almost positive. I would bet you guys a good deal of money somebody's getting that phone call. So just keep that in mind so that you can just, you can make them aware and they can all call our office at any time. You guys are welcome to call me at any time. Ross and I have spoke a couple times. More than happy to help out. I'm available. I think we spoke. I know I was out
All the
something
time,
in my barn when you called and I answered the phone. So just let me know if you got questions. But that's the one. That's a big one that you'll see. It's when is it going to start? And then after that, it will be the people that say, well, I didn't get anything. There's usually a reason. Now,
What about what month will the opt-out letters come out?
so what happens is, if my guess is, and this is a guess, right? There's some education behind it, but my guess is hopefully we're looking February, we might get an attractive price based on the weather in the winter, especially if it's warm. At which point we will select and say, hey guys, you gave us authority to do anything under this rate, and here's the rate we got for everybody. And we'll make you aware of that. And we're going to move forward, and here's the company. And from that point, then we have to send the opt-out letters to the PUCO. We wait 10 days, and they mail them out. So from the time that we do that, my guess is it's going to be probably sometime in March is when those letters will hit. And you'll have a copy of that letter ahead of time so that you guys are aware that this is going to be hitting the community. But somebody doesn't call you and say, hey, I got, and you have no idea what they're talking about. So we'll make sure that, I'll email those out so that you have them. So now if something changes, we're not going to sign stuff up just to sign it up. We're not just going to say, well, got to put a program in place, even though the rates aren't very good. We're not going to do that, but we'll communicate that with you. Hey, we've gone out there, because we're gonna watch. But if we don't get something by the end of the month, then I'm going to reach out to you and say, listen, we've been watching. This hasn't been anything
I've already had somebody ask me about, he wants to opt out already, so, but, well, that's,
Well, he may not have to if he has unless he's with, the utility or had a couple conversations about the solar, people with the solar and the buyback and, that might, and that's fine, that's what you should, it's an optional program. It's not designed that everybody has to do it. But for the ones that do, they enjoy it, and it'll be, right now, we're running higher numbers, typically it's about 50% of the communities at any one given time are in. We're getting some higher numbers now, and that's because the utility prices are so high, and what's available in the market is certainly not nearly as good as what the programs are. So you're seeing a lot more people opting in. So whether or not that continues or not, we'll see. Probably have a little bit better idea in the spring as well at what the new rate from the utility level is going to be. I anticipate it going down a little, but not a lot.
So to simplify things, if you are not an AES customer, you probably will not get an opt-out letter.
If you are not, they're all AES customers.
Yeah.
More specifically, if your supply is not coming from AES, you will not be initially eligible for the aggregation.
So if you have solar, you will not be eligible also.
Well, no, that's not true, because their supply could still be coming from AES. Most cases it is, because they're producing more what they're using and they're selling the rest back to the utility, but they're still AES supply customer. And that I would opt out if I was one of those folks.
If you were solar, you would opt out.
Only if I'm running a net positive on, if I'm selling back to the utility, that's probably what I do. Now, if I'm not producing, I'm still using 500 kilowatts from the power company and then I'm covering the rest, I would probably go into the program because you're not going to lose anything in that, on that. And I would think those are, I had two of those type of questions in this township. But that's been nowhere else, ever, anywhere. So that's good. Hey, all the better to you if you got a system that does that. Great. So, I know you guys got other stuff to get on to. If there's any questions, you mentioned a gentleman being here that had some questions. If you wanted me to.
I can probably email.
Okay. And you have those documents?
The resolutions?
Well, just make sure you you keep those. I don't need them back. But can you make sure you write on the bottom of there, the adopted date?
And then I will send you a copy of the resolutions that they just approved.
You can, yeah. I know what, I'm here, so I know what day you did it. So what I'm going to do is I'm sending an email saying they're adopted on this date. Okay, so, but it's always nice to have the documentation. So 3 years from now, somebody says, oh, they didn't do this.
Each of these will be attached to the resolution document.
Okay,
So, and then I'll send you that document.
so,
Mr. Jacoby, did you have a question?
Yeah, Joe, is it?
yes.
Are you aware of any, and I realize it's a totally different market situation, but of any comparable supply cooperative for individual propane purchasing? In other words,
Yes.
you can see how
Yeah.
right now it's a mad scrambler.
Yeah, the answer to that question is no. Mostly because of the way that the capital intensity of those markets with the trucks and the tanks and all, it's not a share opportunity. I mean, trust me, it's been discussed. How could you even do that? And so I'm not going to say there isn't one out there. I'm going to say I've never heard of it. Just because of the nature, because it's not, with the natural gas, you have pipelines. Electric, you got electric lines. There is nothing, no infrastructure like that on the propane side. So it's all different asset. So what makes the electric and natural gas work is basically those lines are required to be open. Like the road. Anybody can drive up and down the road. I don't live here, pay taxes here, but I can drive up and down the road. It's kind of that concept. Propane would be more like, now this is a private, that you have to have a card or something to have access to, so. It's not, that makes it difficult. Trust me, we've had those conversations because it's not the first time we've been asked. And as somebody who uses propane at their place as well, so I would love that option. Doesn't mean that they don't exist, but
Thank you very much, Mr. Garrett,
Yeah.
for coming out.
yeah,
We'll have more questions this time.
yep, just let me know. And we'll make sure we keep you up to date with information.
Okay, very good.
All righty, thank you.
Have a safe trip home.
Yeah, everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Good, thank you.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Okay, next on the docket, are there any visitor comments? If so, please come up to the podium and state your name and address the first time. Keener.
So excited.
Mark Keener, 7865 Jamaica Road. So a couple of years ago, the board appointed me as the representative from German Township to the JED board. And that was a initial 2 fiscal years. So we had a short fiscal year and then a calendar year appointment. So my appointment ends technically 12/31. Don't shake your head. 12/31/23. Now it's up to Jackson Township to appoint somebody to represent the township. And it could be their township or represent the townships plural. I got a text from Trustee Mike Moyer this evening as I'm pulling into the parking lot. And they have decided to appoint Mark Keener, 7865. And being the glutton for punishment that I am, I accept it.
4-year term.
4 years. Yep.
So good.
So that's it.
Mark, we appreciate that.
We very much appreciate
We'll be having another meeting here on Wednesday night, and so be expecting a check under your door on Thursday morning.
I always look forward to that
All right.
meeting.
Thank you, Mark.
That's terrific.
Any other visitor comments? If none, we'll go ahead with the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Houston.
Okay, good evening again, everybody. I've got quite a number of things we're going to go through, so we'll get started. First of all, I've given you the minutes for 2 meetings. I've given you the November 13th, our regular monthly meeting, as well as December 5th, our special meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
No.
If not, may I have a motion to approve both of them?
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the 11/13/23 and the 12/5/23 meetings as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. I've also given you the November financial reports, the same monthly reports you get every month, the fund status as of the end of November, the year-to-date cash summary by fund, the month of November cash summary by fund, the November receipts, and the November payments. And there are several items I do want to point out to you. First of all, receipt number 170, it's for $86,602.37 from the state of Ohio, and that was the second half of 2023 rollback and homestead exemption payment. So it's related, of course, to our real estate taxes that we get from the county. Receipt number 182 for $9,388.60 was our monthly interest for November from Star, Ohio. And that is now 5.57%, keeps going up. Voucher number 947 for $24,738.35 to Dry Tech Exteriors LLC is for the Township Hall roof silicone coating. And of course, we pay that invoice using American Rescue Plan Act funds. And just for your information, the fund balance and the ARPA fund at the end of November was just slightly less than $50,000. And you had committed up to 4,000 of that amount last month to pay for the Township Hall new rear door and frame replacement. Mr. Potter, I need to get that contract addendum from Dry Tech. You had a chance to talk
Well,
to
I-
them
Which addendum was that for the repair?
for the roof siliconing. I gave you a copy of it at last month's meeting.
Okay,
Do you need it? If you need another copy, I can print one out. But that is required to have in the files when we go through the audit. So I appreciate it. Thank you. The next one is warrant number 5715. The total for that is $477,914.51. And that was paid to the city of Germantown. It represents the second half joint levy collections. I paid all of them at 90%, except for the road and bridge levy collection, which is paid on a pro rata basis based on our property valuations versus the amount in the city. Warrant number 50718 for $10,307.25 was paid to First National Bank of Germantown. It is our semi-annual payment on the Valley View Water and Sewer District loan. We have 4 payments remaining through December of 2025, and including the unpaid interest, the current loan balance is now $41,229. And finally, warrant number 50719 for $2,000 paid to the Germantown First Church of God is the donation to Sunshine in a Bag that you approved at the November meeting. Any questions about the financials?
Did you mean to say the road and bridge, or is that the road levy?
Road levy, did I say?
You said road.
Sorry, road levy. The fund title may be road and bridge levy. Let me just. Road district levy is the correct name for it. If there are no questions, may I have a motion to approve the financial reports and authorize payment of the November bills?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the November financial reports and authorize the payment of November bills, warrants 50713 through 50719 and vouchers 848 through 952 for payroll, direct deposit, tax withholdings, and other electronic payments.
Second.
Any discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Last month, you approved the group data sharing agreement with Medical Mutual. And I did send that on to them. After that, then Mrs. Close worked with all of the employees who currently receive medical insurance to get a related authorization for release of insurance information, which is something that we keep in our files, but we have to have that on hand so that we can follow through with everything that you approved last month. So Mrs. Close, thank you for taking care of that for me. Now, I want to help the police and road departments in preparing their budgets for next year. I recently provided year-to-date analyses to both Mr. Holbrook and the chief and Mrs. Close of their spending by account number, along with my estimate of total year spending and estimated year-end fund balances. Now, we're going to meet at the end of this month for our budget meeting, but there are some items I think we should discuss and try to knock out before we meet and go through the budgets. So if we can get some answers tonight, it will allow those budgets to be more accurate when you review them at the budget meeting. I don't think we need a resolution or a motion. All you're going to do is essentially agree what you would like to see in the budgets, and then you will approve those budgets fully at the organizational meeting in January. So the first one I want to talk about is our COLA. As you know, you received an email from Chief Birch several weeks ago suggesting a 3% COLA increase for the police department. And you may recall that last year, all the township employees received a 3% COLA. COLA, of course, being cost of living adjustment. So they received a 3% COLA for 2023, even though last year's inflation rate was probably 7-8% or more. So they really fell behind last year. But I don't know what you might want to do for this year. Do you want to use the chief's recommendation of 3% for the entire township, or would you like to have a different percentage?
Well, are you okay with the 3%?
I put 4 into my budget. I just sent out with my report. Got a chance to review it, but the only difference is if you remember back when we tried to run our road levy 3 years in a row, we didn't take any cost of living adjustment just for the fact of trying to get public to pass that levy. But you know, we fell behind in those 3 or 4 years by not taking anything. So we're still catch up from that. And like Mark said, you know, there was 8% COLA last year, and I think we got 3 last year. So
3.
but you know, do we have to be the same? I don't believe so. It would be nice if we did, just for simplicity's sake.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna do 3 or 4, it should be the same for all employees, including your department of police. I don't have any trouble going up to 4% this year if that's not gonna cost any budgets. Just
Anything you do is going to take away from our fund balance, but it's what you think is fair for the employees.
I was
You could
going to
read in-
suggest
in
the
the chief-
3.5%.
As you read in the chief's email, you know, we're below market, certainly in the police department with salaries, perhaps also in the road department. I don't know. We do have some benefits that some other townships don't have, particularly our medical plan. But that's kind of hard to feed your family on the medical benefits. It's nice when you use them, but if you don't need them, you're not really getting anything. So I don't know, whatever you think.
I don't have a problem either.
Since last year's was so high and we only did 3, why don't we, I'm okay with 4% this year
I'm okay
for
for it.
everybody. Are you good with that?
I said 3% out of ignorance, basically. I didn't know I could go any higher, so. Yeah, I think 4% would help.
I think we have a plan.
Yeah. It's great news.
The next item to talk about on the budget is trustee salaries. For 2023, we did reinstate your salaries back to 100% after being at 75% for a number of years. The general fund was not very healthy. I assume you want to continue 100% in 2024. Any disagreement with that assumption?
no.
Okay. Also last year, we continue to allocate the elected official salaries to the other funds that certain percentages each of us share our time with. In the case of Mr. Stubbs, it's mainly allocated partly to the police department, Mr. Potter and also a little bit to trash, Mr. Potter to the road department, and my salary gets allocated basically everywhere. But at the same time, for 2023, you decided to transfer to each of those funds an amount equivalent to what the salaries cost when they get transferred in. So basically it was a wash, an in and out. Last year, the total we transferred was 34,900 out of the general fund. Using the salary increases for elected officials that the state approved for 2024, I anticipate that this year's transfer, if you do the same thing, is 36,100. What would you like to do?
I think continuing the transfer to the funds, the equivalent amounts is fine with me, like we did last year.
Just say on that.
That's fine.
Okay,
Absolutely.
no change for 24. Okay. Also, for the last several years, we have approved, you have approved, I'm sorry, the general fund for road and bridge fund. Is that right? Road and bridge fund, this, as an estimate of the cost that Mr. Holberg and Mr. Hamilton incur to mow the grass here at the Township Hall as well as at the rural cemeteries. Do you want to continue that transfer, or perhaps would you like to increase the transfer?
I would like to actually see that doubled. I think, certainly the health of the general fund is very good. And that's mostly due to the interest payments we get from Star Ohio. We're getting almost $10,000 per month from them. So I think by doubling the amount to $8,000, it should help you out a little bit at least.
Well, if you remember the estimate that I gave you
It's a lot.
for mowing the cemeteries or the maintenance in the cemeteries was quite a bit more than the 4,000, but that was kind of what we agreed on at that time. So I think that would help immensely.
Any thoughts on 8,000?
I agree.
That's good. That's good.
Okay. That's approved. Okay, also, this year, for the first time in a number of years, you approved depositing the 18,000 cell tower lease payment that we received from the state of Ohio, 18,000, if I don't know whether I said that or not, and we put that into the police fund this year. In prior years, that had been going into the general fund again because the general fund was not very healthy. Do you want to continue to deposit the 18,000 in 2024, or would you like me just to say this is going to be an ongoing back into the police department?
It needs to go into the police department to help offset the dispatch costs. So permanently would be fine at this point in time.
Agreed?
Because the original purpose of the tower was to offset our dispatch cost 100%. And then the county and the state changed that on us after the fact. So
Significant hit.
mhm.
It's 34.
This is about half of it.
36,000.
So agreed, it will be a permanent,
Agree.
unless until some point you may want to change your mind. I mean, everything's
Right.
subject to your future discretion, but I won't come back to you each year and ask you. I will admit that when that payment came in a couple months ago, I forgot that you had approved it for 2023. So I just, this past week, made the transfer from the general fund to the police fund and apologize to Mrs.
Okay,
Close.
that is a phone call I will gladly take.
Sometimes those things happen. Okay, well, we have some, I think it was you, Dr. Cross, just mentioned interest. We did receive almost $10,000 this month in interest from Star Ohio. It has been a significant source of revenue all year. I estimate that the total interest income this year is going to be $108,000, of which $99,000 of that is going to be going into the general fund. Certainly, that's not our largest fund. So you may wonder, why does so much interest go into the general fund? So we're going to have a little history or a little government lesson here, because that's what the state requires. First of all, by law, certain of our funds are required to receive their pro rata share of interest. And these for us include the general fund, the motor vehicle license tax, the gasoline tax, and the permissive motor vehicle tax funds. So we have no choice. They get their interest every month. Also by law, certain of our funds are not allowed to receive interest. And these are the road and bridge, the garbage and waste, the police district, as well as the minor police funds, and there are 4 others, the road levy fund, and our 5 joint levy funds with the city. The state requires that the general fund receives the pro rata share of interest that these funds would otherwise have received. And thirdly, by law, certain funds are allowed to either receive their interest or have their interest added to the general fund. And for us, that includes the ARPA fund, the Sunbury Cemetery Fund, and the Fouts Fund. At present, the Sunbury and the Fouts funds do receive their interest. The ARPA fund does not. It is added to the general fund. So with that little civics lesson, heavily due to our 2023 interest in the general fund, I think that the fund balance this year will increase from 257,000 back in January to 333,000 at the end of this month. And if we don't make any changes for next year, I estimate the fund balance is going to increase to 386,000. Now that's going to be a little bit different now because you've doubled the mowing, but that's close. So as long as interest rates remain high, which I'm sure they will at least through the end of 2024, the general fund is going to continue to grow because of interest. So I'm wondering whether you might want to consider transferring from the general fund to some of these funds that are not allowed to receive interest, the amount that they would receive if they were allowed. And of course, this would be a transfer from the general fund that can be done at any time for any reason. So it would not be that they're getting an allocation from the general fund. You have any, no pun intended, interest in doing that?
Yeah, I think it doesn't do us any, good to have a big amount in our general fund. I think that money should go to use. And I think that's a good way to do it, to allow the funds that would not normally get interest, to allow them to get interest and raise their.
And we will do that as a resolution when the time comes to approve the actual dollar transfer. Would you like me to calculate what it would have been for 2023? And you might want to consider doing that in January and then wait till the end of 2024 to do that one? Or kind of how would you like to play this? I know we're in the weeds now.
So basically, we're going to calculate 2023.
I can calculate 2023, what each fund would have received. That's an easy calculation for me to do.
So I would just go ahead and do
My
that.
records each month show what, let's say, let me pick a fund, what the police district fund would have received, and then it shows the amount that goes into the general fund that they would have received otherwise. All I have to do is add up 12 numbers, and I know how much interest they would have received.
Can we get an amount of how much this is going to be?
I can calculate it. We can talk about it.
Talk about it.
But I just don't want to do that work if you don't have an interest.
I'm absolutely interested, but I think we should know what kind of money we're talking about here.
What's the reason for not allowing interest in those specific funds? Do you know?
I have no idea. It's government.
Yeah.
We could ask our state rep or our soon to retire state senator. But
You can do that.
yeah, I figured. But there's a way around it. I mean, we can, even though they don't allow it, we can do this if we're interested. So I will calculate the amount and I will present it to you at the December 29th meeting. And you can decide what you might want to do.
Yep.
I will not have, well, maybe I'll wait till the January meeting, but I won't have the December interest yet. Bring it to you at the regular January meeting. Okay, I can finish my note. Okay, that takes care of all my issues with budgeting. Mr. Holberg, Chief, Mrs. Close, is there anything you can think of we need kind of to talk about to help you finish budgets? Okay, great. So we kind of talked about it. We have 2 special meetings coming up in the next few weeks. On December 29th, Friday night at 7 o'clock, we have our year-end special meeting where we will review budgets. We will approve other year-end items. There'll be quite a long list that we will do, and I will get that put out into our special meeting notice. Then we will hold our organizational meeting for 2024 on January 3rd, which is a Wednesday, I believe, at 7 o'clock. And then we will have our normal January meeting on January 8th. Okay. Next item. Every year, the trustees appoint the members of the Reserve Police Officer Memorial Fund Board for the following year, and we typically do that at the December meeting. For 2023, the board members you appointed were Mr. Keener as the citizen representative and chair, Mr. Potter as an elected official representative, myself as an elected official representative and secretary, Reserve Officer Gabir as the Reserve Officer representative, and Officer Shoke as the second Reserve Officer representative. I don't know whether the chief would like to make any changes, but if not, I've given you the resolution to appoint for 2024.
Are you good?
Be Resolution 60.
There you go, Mark. Okay, I'd like to introduce Resolution 2023-60, resolution appointing the 2024 Reserve Police Officer Memorial Fund Board as follows: Mark Keener, Lou Potter, Mark Heaston, Adam Gabir, and Murad Shoka.
Any discussion of the resolution? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-60 is adopted. Wanted to just let you know that I did attend an all-day webinar on December 4th, put on by the Auditor of State. It's their year-end update for the Uniform Accounting Network, and it basically walks us through what we have to do our financial statements at the end of the year. And then later this week, I will be attending the Montgomery County Auditor's annual update up at Sinclair College. Does anybody wish to go along to that? It's an interesting session always. Okay.
Good.
You can sleep in, that's okay.
And they do serve donuts there.
Yeah, it's a decent breakfast. I will agree. Last thing I want to report is I was reached out twice this past month to help give some limited assistance. First of all, Bob Rohrback called me for some help, and I was happy to provide because he has now assumed the temporary fiscal officer position at Germantown Union Cemetery following the resignation of Julie Delp, which I think you announced at last month's meeting.
Correct.
He's got his hands full, I understand, but he's working through it. This past week, and I was contacted by Perry Township trustee Zach Music for assistance following the resignation of Perry Township's fiscal officer last week. And he was looking for someone to assist a newly appointed fiscal officer through the year-end reporting requirements that go out through February or March. And unfortunately, I don't think my schedule will allow me to help out in that regard. So I suggested another option to him, and I believe he's tried to pursue that. And I will talk to him again and see if there's anything else I can try to advise him with. So, and with all that, thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you, Mark. Police Department report, Chief.
Police Department report for the month of November. Monthly stats, officers drove 4,832 miles. They were dispatched 84 times and they closed 80 cases. Case follow-ups were 6, which usually go into the cases that weren't closed of the 84 dispatches. 1 arrest, 322 business checks. They did 91 vacant house checks and 830 occupied house checks from the township. They answered 6 crash calls, made 34 traffic stops, and issued 12 citations. There's no significant equipment issues to discuss this month. But I have several things to go over this monthly input. The German Township Police Department passed our CALEA audit, which is the Commission on Accredited Law Enforcement Agencies accreditation. Passed the advanced gold standard, and it was our 24th year of being accredited. It started in 1999. Chief Wilcox and Lori. Just a little history on CALEA. CALEA accreditation program provides public safety agencies with an opportunity to voluntarily meet and establish set of professional standards which require comprehensive and uniform written directives, which is our policy and procedures, clearly define authority, performance, and responsibilities. Reports and analysis, to make fact-based and informed management decisions. Preparedness to address natural or man-made critical incidents. Community relationship building and maintenance with the community. Independent review by subject matter experts. This is a continuous pursuit of excellence through annual reviews and other assessment measures. The commission currently serves slightly more than 5% of the nation's law enforcement agencies, with enrollments increasing every month. Roughly 30% of the nation's law enforcement officers are employed by agencies engaged in CLIA accreditation process. So in Ohio, 82 out of approximately 831 police agencies are CLIA accredited. So we're one of those 82, which I'm pretty proud of, and I think our department. So I wanted to mention that. I think you got an email from CLIA or an article about CLIA.
I forwarded an article that came in to the governing.com
Yeah.
website about how important CLIA is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you weren't mentioned.
Yeah, well, yeah, we are the smallest agency that's accredited, at least in the United States. I don't know worldwide, but I know that we received that honorable mention several times. I guess we didn't receive it in that part this time. But yeah, we're pretty proud of this, and I liken it to before I became police officer, I was in the automotive industry. So if you wanted to, as a automotive parts component supplier, if you wanted to supply GM, Ford, Chrysler, you had to be a member of an accreditation audit process, and you had to pass what's called TS 16949 or ISO 9000. You had to pass those in order to supply these automotive, these automotive makers. So I think it's pretty important. Police department, police officers, we have standards that we have to follow and have to meet. And I think our department does a good job at it. It's a small department. I think it's really critical that we maintain this. And Shauna does a fantastic job.
I think we should congratulate your department.
Yeah. We also passed our LEADS audit, which is Law Enforcement Automated Data System. It's basically a statewide computerized network which provides computerized data and communications for criminal justice agencies within the state of Ohio. So we went through that and passed that as well. Breakfast with Santa went very well this year. We had a great turnout. A great group of people came and helped us out. The dog was a huge success, so thank you very much. That was fantastic. But we ran out of sausage this year, and we only had 20 pancakes left, I think, at the very end. So it went really well. The photographers did a fantastic job. Everybody did a great job, and I wanted to let everybody know that I appreciate everybody's effort.
We appreciate you putting it on.
Yeah, I think we'll just keep growing, get better every year.
Well, and
And
then
Shauna did a fantastic job putting that together.
it never stopped. We started at 9. The line was around the building the whole time. It never got down. There was consistent flow. There was never a time that there was no one in with Santa. So it was incredible turnout. So great job by you guys and the police department. I think everybody had a good time, and it was cool to see that many people here. So whatever we did, we need to do it again next year.
I also want to thank Jeremy for fixing the ruts left in the front yard.
And you don't talk the same.
Yeah, well, next year we'll have to have a officer. Yeah, that went great. I'm really proud of everybody and really appreciate everybody's help that volunteered.
It's just much better advertised this year for it.
I can't really, I mean, I didn't do anything different than I normally do. I think we had, I know Dawn shared it in a few groups. And I think that helped shares.
The schools posted it, and I think that
And I send it to them every year. So.
they both posted it.
Apparently.
They were
Yeah.
Again, thank you, everybody. And we have started our testing process for the open sergeant's position. The goal is to have a recommendation to the board by sometime early January of 2020. Yep. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Chief. Road Department report.
Just a couple things this evening to report on. Obviously, I turned in a copy of the 2024 road budget draft for your review. Like Mark had mentioned, we'll be having a meeting on the 8th. So if you have any additions or changes you'd like to see made between now and then, please let me know. Email me. I think, Mr. Potter, you're probably be talking about the water maintenance systems people, so you can talk about that. The only other thing I had to report on is, I believe Wednesday, they're scheduled to put the new back door in, so hopefully Wednesday, we'll have door, not one that has a 2.5 inch rusted area across the bottom, so. Other than that, that's all I have.
Hey, thanks, Jeremy. Zoning Department report.
Short and sweet. One permit in November. It was for a pole barn on Starry Neck Drive. We have a new BZA case coming for the new sign for Valley View Schools. They want it to be significantly different. So that will be on January 9th at 7 p.m. And the zoning commission will hold another special meeting this Thursday, December 14th at 7 p.m. to further discuss regulations for small solar facilities. That's all I've got for that. I want to thank Jeremy and Scott and Road Department for helping me make the transition to combine the zoning and trash office. They helped me figure out how to get both phones in one office with only one phone jack. That was a little bit of a tricky case, but these guys are amazing. So I really appreciate their help. And thank you to the trustees for giving us the cell tower lease money. That definitely helps the budget. So as the person mainly in charge of the budget, I very much appreciate it. That's all I got.
Let me just add a couple things to Shauna's report. Marvin Rieger agreed to serve another term on the zoning commission, and Marty Cox agreed to serve another term on the BZA. So really appreciate those volunteers. I sent Shauna Close, Kurt Jacoby, and Pete Lurker tentative meeting schedules for 2024. The BZA and the zoning commission will approve the schedules at the reorg meeting. So those are still a little tentative. One other thing is noted in the day-to-day news on 12/3/23, Prairie Flyer Energy Storage is proposing to build an 85 megawatt utility scale battery energy storage facility on 7.3 acres in Vandalia. It looks actually to be mostly wooded land, but this is the first time that I saw a battery facility was actually proposed in the county. So that was kind of interesting. All right, trustee reports, Mr. Potter.
Do you want to approve Mr. Rieger and Mr. Cox tonight, or do you want to wait till the organization meeting?
We can approve them tonight.
It'll just be a motion.
Yeah, I move to have Marvin Rieger serve another term on the zoning commission and Marty Cox to serve another term on the BZA,
Second.
starting 1/1/2024.
Any discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Over to you, Mr. Potter.
All right, a few things. Of course, nothing's going on with the pool, the report. Our park, our Christmas parade wasn't nearly as successful as your guys' was. It was Saturday night down in Germantown. Of course, it rained. The horse parade was canceled completely. Santa Claus rode in on the fire truck. Not a very good turnout at all due to the heavy rain right at the time. And in my report, the 2 plaques has been ordered. one explaining the history of MMI, one for the history of Camp Miami, to be placed around the flagpole. Back to the what Jeremy was talking about. We had at the last meeting, we had River Rangers give us a proposal for the erosion there at Percher Park. So it's severe erosion. We had another gentleman called, I emailed you the proposals. It's called Channel Maintenance System, Ron Wine. We had he gave a presentation down at the city building, Jeremy and city people and Scott was down there and we watched that presentation. And then on Friday, I think it was, we met down at Kircher Park to look at the erosion problem. Emailed you the proposal for $52,500, which is $40,000 cheaper than the River Rangers was, and seems to be a lot better system. All natural stuff, use all the trees that the River Rangers wanted to take out down there. He's going to use as the deflector, they call it, to deflect the water back to the center of the channel. I know people was concerned about them deflecting it over and it hitting the mudlick side of but it's already doing that where it has eroded out and essing back, and it's now going back across into the mudlick side, our side, what you want to call that. So we're just trying to keep it in the center, running straight down. So I propose to the townships to approve paying. What I want to do is pay for half of this project and the city pay for the other half. We have a limited time for this project that needs to be done before the next flood, which could increase the cost significantly. And they are only allowed to work on it from October 30th or till April the 1st, I think, because of the bats. So it also has to get put on their schedule. You would like Indiana bat. Cannot work around the creek from April to October. So, right. So that I wanted to bring that in front of the trustees. I also, for something to think about, I also want to propose for the future in the budget, $10,000 per year out of the general fund on an ongoing maintenance for Twin Creek and Little Twin Creek. The Twin Creek is a significant part of the German Township community and needs to be maintained no different than the roads or the buildings or the cemeteries. I'm going to ask the city to put another $10,000 in as a joint budget for an annual $20,000, enough to make a difference in the creek. We just didn't know any better, but we should have been maintaining this long ago. It would have saved all the problems that we're having now and the problems that we're about ready to have in other multiple places. So I wanted the township trustees to think about that, and so that we can maybe do that for our upcoming budget.
For the first question, has the city been approached as far as paying their one half of 52,000?
Just got the proposal today.
Okay, so they have
So I've not been approved.
They've not approved anything.
Nope. But I'm hoping to approve ours so that will help put pressure on them to approve theirs.
I think this might need a special meeting between the two of us if this is going to be something we go forward with. So we can call a meeting with them. We haven't done it in several years.
Okay.
I mean, Jeremy, you attended the meeting where they made the presentation. What's your opinion?
I think I think the methodology seems sound. They gave several examples of the projects that they had completed. I think the benefit is by using what's already there, and they kind of are able to
Deflect.
get around the Army Corps, not get around, that's not the word I'm looking for. It makes it easier for the Army Corps of Engineers to approve projects like that because they're not putting foreign objects hard fill, man-made items into the creek. Concrete, asphalt, well, they're not gonna let you asphalt anyways, but any man-made materials. They're basically what they're doing is they're using the foliage, the trees and the branches and material like that to slow down the water in those areas that are eroded. And when that water slows down, it drops any material that is suspended in the creek, therefore building back up that area that has been eroded. First thing they'll do is get rid of all the objects, stumps, trees, and things that are in the creek, right, in the creekway that are deflecting the water, and they will put that material in the area that has been eroded. And that will, like I said, slow down that water so that basically you're resilting in the area that has been eroded, and that will hopefully, in practice, straighten the creek out. And I agree with what Lou says, with it being eroded there, the creek has been diverted. So now it is essentially kind of running straight towards Mudlick Road. So if indeed they can realign that, collect that water so that it begins to eat away the center of the creek where the gravel bar has been deposited, and basically let the creek redistribute material similar to that. It won't be that material because it'll be downstream, but redistribute material similar to that in the area that's been eroded. Then go in there and just keep an eye on it, make sure no more trees fall, maybe put some plantings in there. Hopefully some trees will grow and establish root systems and hold that area.
When they put that tree and debris stuff in there, they dig dead man's in it and they cable it all there so it can never be washed away.
It doesn't float away.
It doesn't float away. It's there permanently. So that's their thing. They dead man it and they cable it all in there, and they winch stuff across the creek and they place it.
They look at trees that are on the verge of falling in, and then they say, okay, that looks like a good candidate. We know it's going to fall in. They trim, they top it, get rid of a lot of the weight that's pulling it into the creek, and use that material as part of this. I'll call it a filter to slow the water down so that it deposits.
Divert the current over, and then the still water silts it back in.
I think, to answer your question, it sounded like a sound process. It does have some scientific backing. It has been presented to the Army Corps of Engineers. They seem to be with it. They seem to be allowed to work under the same nationwide permit that we work under, which is basically, don't put a whole bunch of foreign material in there, raise the water level, it would disturb,
The muscles.
base of the creek. But they seem to really like that technology, we'll call it, of doing it that way, because it's making the creek do the work.
Yeah. So you agree as far as Mudlick is in danger?
I agree with the fact that it's in danger now. Luckily, that side of Mudlick is pretty heavily armored with concrete and stone, and material has been dumped there for over hundreds of years probably. But it's not doing it any good now. So if they could straighten that out, it will be a benefit. I don't see it being any worse. I don't want to jinx myself, but
It's a lot easier to keep it maintained than it is to fix it back.
Mr. Keener, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Can you come up to the,
Making it work, Mark, sorry.
how well you're on the recording?
I've got a question with the trees and using the natural trees as diversion and all that. What happens when the guy that runs the kayak place decides to go down and say, boy, these trees are in my way, and starts chainsawing trees out to make a better path for the kayakers?
It won't be in the.
it won't be in the middle of the creek. It will be in that hole that's been carved out by the creek.
There's about 400 feet there.
Okay.
And he said he's gonna have like 4 different, he called them water diverters.
A lot of these people are, I mean, and I kind of got this out of even these guys, I think, they're water people. You know, they're avid outdoorsmen
Okay.
and kayakers and that they work on these things so that you don't have these problems. So
The kayakers call these people.
Okay.
And they have problems.
And so the cables and everything holding all this on, those are shore based.
Yes.
Won't be.
yeah, they don't go across the creek.
Yeah, they actually, they dig holes, like call it a dead man, put a
Okay.
tree down in the hole and then anchor,
Okay.
hold everything back there.
That's if
Most of
they-
you guys are pretty confident in the company. As far as you know. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Well, if there is a problem, why is the Army Corps just not dealing with, taking care of it?
The Army Corps will not.
They don't care.
They're not in the maintenance business.
The next question is, why is Metro Park not dealing with it?
They don't care either. They don't care if you're,
They've got a $20 million budget and ours is much, much smaller. Why are we the ones stuck?
because they don't care if Mud Lake Road falls in the creek.
But I think it's city property, isn't it?
It's still Metro Parks. I mean, I don't know, but we've tried with, you don't deal with Metro Park like.
Because Metro Parks doesn't own the creek.
They can dig a swamp, but they can't maintain, they can dig a swamp on Boomershine, but they can't maintain the creek.
That's correct. Yes, that is correct.
Cross 744 South Steiger. So if it's city property, why isn't the city more willing to do something about it?
Well, they will be willing to do something about it, but it's still a community problem.
But I feel like it's a parks problem. I mean,
Just so happen to be there, could be around the corner where it's not a park, or downstream a little bit, or upstream a little bit farther. It just so happened to be there.
what
Still
would
just a
be the tees then after that?
I'm sorry.
The tees for the golf course? Will that be fixed then?
No, because it just will no more will fall in the creek.
That doesn't fix the.
Or it just keeps it from getting any worse, and we'll build back over time, but we're talking years. Years before that build.
I'm still a little concerned why the city isn't more concerned about this issue.
Well, the last council meeting Judy was at up front. She had a presentation about all this. She is concerned about it. So they had
But they didn't really get a whole lot of
they
guidance.
didn't get a whole lot from the council,
Yeah.
but so
Of course, that was the 95,000.
that was at 95,000, and they're just not educated enough to know what we're talking about here. So I'm going to try to educate them a little bit more
Without money.
with the half of their money. It's our community here. It's our creek on this side.
So could our half be spent out of ARPA funds? Is that something that's?
It could be. We can spend ARPA funds on anything as long as it's unbudgeted. So if we put it in the budget, no.
The problem with the city is that they're already, spending so much money on the bridge, that a lot of their ARPA funds are going toward that. So I don't know.
But we can use ARPA, they don't have to use theirs for
Yeah.
us to use ours.
Yeah, the one that got nothing to do with the other, so.
Uh,
It was 50,000, so when it was presented to them, they had $93,000. And then, so now we're at 50,000, but if they do half of that, it's 25,000 apiece. I think this is much more doable. And next year it's going to cost 75,000, and the next year it'll cost 100,000. And before long, it's not going to go away. It's a lot easier to fix it now
So would the parks be willing to go in thirds? Why?
because he just won't, because they don't have to.
They don't have money to do it?
No, because they just don't want to. There's no reason.
Talking about Metro Parks, you talking
No,
about?
like our parks.
Oh, the other parts. They don't have no money to do that.
Because they still owe the money to the city. They're still paying that back?
For the parking lots?
Yeah.
I've been debt already.
Yeah.
And if you guys are confident, you two are confident this company can do this, I think it's probably a good investment. I don't know if we need a special meeting, but certainly you need to put pressure on the council and Judy to actually
Yeah.
through with this. Because again, I got the impression that council, all 7 of them up there, just didn't really understand the whole situation.
Absolutely. They don't understand. And the $95,000, they just,
Was
they
too
just said,
much.
they didn't even think about it.
So
So, but,
it was-
on wine, he put on a good presentation. He said he'd be willing to come back and put on another presentation if you want to put one on here, or if the city feels that they need to put one on. But, we're at a little bit of time
Right, time constraint.
restricted here, yes. He'd like to be done by February because of freezing and floods and snow and all that stuff. So,
I think that you 2 gentlemen are more informed about this whole process than probably the city of Germantown. So if you could
yes,
get them
I will
on
take,
board,
I'll talk to them.
especially if we can use ARPA funds. I mean, it's probably would be a good investment.
Yes, it will be a good investment.
So I mean, I have confidence in what you guys are presenting.
Yes.
So,
I think Metro Park needs to step up.
I do too. But
They just put a sidewalk in on, off of Eckert Road
It
into
goes
the,
all the
into
way
the-
in.
into the creek. So they can do stuff like that. They can dig a swamp, have Shrek living out on Boomershine.
I understand what you're saying, but they just won't.
I find it hard with, I don't know, we're just so limited on, and we've done such a good job the last couple of years of building up our general fund and not spending money on silly things, and to see what Germantown spends their money on. I don't know, I just find it hard to, and I get what you're saying, but I find it
If
hard.
we don't do nothing, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to go away.
yeah, I don't think it's an ideological question. I think that it needs to be done. No matter what you think about the city, how they
Yes.
spend their money makes really no
But
difference.
I just don't see how it's our
Because
responsibility.
nobody else will do it.
That doesn't make it our responsibility, though.
One possibility is, since it directly impacts Kircher Park, is that we could use some of the holdback money in the parks budget.
Which we've already thrown some of that to the parking lot though, right?
No.
We haven't
No.
given them any, we gave them 10,000 last year for MMI, but nothing more than their normal. But their current,
I think the funding is certainly possible on our part, but you've got to get that,
I get the city on board.
got to get the city on board.
Yes,
I think that's.
I agree. This is all, I'm going to them saying that we are on board. We need you on board.
So the meeting you had with the firm proposing to do the work, were any, besides Judy, any of the council members there?
No.
we have 58,000 in the parks.
So the first meeting that we had down there, Chip was there, the engineer, and Ben, the parks guy,
Right.
but no councilman was there. We didn't know what we was getting into.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you looked at the pictures on the proposal.
Yeah, that's all.
So I can get that to the council members
Yeah.
and talk to Judy and try to get this pushed through.
Yeah, because if we can do this by the first few weeks in January.
Yes.
You have 58,000 in the parks fund. You could pay for this whole amount, which essentially means the city's paying half and we're paying half because the money comes from everybody in the city and the township. That way you don't use the ARPA money. You can use it for something that would benefit the township directly. And then we slowly build back up the parks fund balance.
I don't really.
That's the purpose of holding back is for special
Emergency.
projects.
Emergency project, basically.
I understand that, but it just so happened to be at the park.
Yeah.
It just so happened to be it.
But what's being currently affected is the park
Yeah, that is
because it's a disc golf
I just hate
course.
to use all the park money. So,
Well, I think the other thing you gotta look at, and I don't disagree with the methodology and what's gonna be done and how it hopefully will readjust the problem that's there. I think it comes down to, A, where the money comes from. You know, should it come from the park? Should it come from the general fund? Should it come from ARPA? I think we need to remember, you know, this isn't the only problem area we have in the township.
that's why I wanted the $10,000 a year.
Yeah, you know, if we have that problem out on Twin Road,
Absolutely.
you know. That might be something that is here sooner than later.
Absolutely.
So if we use, I'm just throwing this out there, if we use the parks holdback money for this problem, then that frees up that money, possibly ARPA, possibly just general fund money, to do something that is directly impacting Twin. You know, I would hate to say, okay, we're going to throw all this money at and then in 4 years, maybe the general fund's not doing as good. I don't know for some reason. And the road department now gets stuck with, you know, big problem on Little Twin.
That's why I was proposing the $10,000 a year for the budget, out of the budget for a maintenance program for Twin Creek. And if the city, if I can get the city to do that also, that's $20,000 a year.
Yeah, but they're not gonna put $10,000 a year in for Little Twin grants.
I understand that.
That's my only concern.
Well, like I said, when Ron was there, when he come out, we talked to him about Little Twin. We will go there and have him look at that. Hopefully we'll get a price and see what that is. So it never gets to problem 4 years from now.
Right. Well, that was the only reason I thought maybe look harder at using parks money is because if he gives a proposal to do that as well, next year, year before, year after, whatever,
That's what
then
the
you
$10,000
haven't spent out the general fund to.
That's what the $10,000 a year.
That's probably.
I don't get a vote, but I completely agree with you, Mr. Holbrook. I think
That's just my opinion on what.
parks money can only be used on something related to the park.
Right.
The general fund can be used for anything. If we use general fund money for this, parks money is going to sit there. The city's going to come up with some other plan, something that they think they need that money for. I think it should, if you're going to pay for it, I think you should pay for it since this one is at the parks. I think you should use the parks money. Now, if you don't want to pay for it, that's okay. But I'd much rather you use the parks holdback than.
That was my only thing is I wanted the board to know that I'm not against doing it. I think it's a worthy project. I think it makes sense. I mean, what we've seen and what the guy talked about, it sounds like it's a good process. But it's just, who's going to pay for it? That's what it comes down to.
So let me ask you this. Is it worth saving, if we can get the city to pay half of it out of their general fund instead of us paying for all of it out of the park fund? Was that helping save?
I think it's gonna be a tough sell for the city because you were there. I mean, the city will say we have no money.
We'll see. We always have the park money for a backup if we need it.
I would start there if I were you.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should use the park holdback money. You
Okay.
know, if we see that great a need, if we have to pay it all out of that park fund, so be it. It's again, it's a situation, it's like the Sunbury Cemetery Fund just sits there because it really can't grow much.
Can't do anything else with
You
it.
can't do anything else with it, you know, this is.
Well, now I know that the city is part of this anyways, but now they're not having to pay anything.
Well, I think you approach it at the next council meeting that we are in favor of the project. But it depends on the city paying half. And then if they say no, then we have to go back and say, well, do we want to pay the whole thing out of the park holdback?
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that would be.
I'd like to get the city on board with paying half of it.
I would.
And toward putting $10,000 a year or something in their budget for a maintenance program.
Just want to point out, if the city pays half out of their general fund, then we can't go into the park fund for our half.
That's correct.
That's going to happen. They go out of their general fund, we're going to have.
I would just go to the city and say, we'll pay for it using parks money. Essentially, they pay half and we pay half anyway, because that's how the
Right, because
tax
it's
money.
coming in from both township and city, yeah, so.
So what
But it
about
is from
when he
both
does
ends.
part of this, it's going to be on the Mudlick side too.
But the parks money is from the city and the township. We just happen to be holding it.
I'm just saying, when he does this project, from my understanding, he's going to be on the Mudlick.
Well, that's just to take the trees to.
He's going to charge for it. No, he's going to put it down through there. Along in front of the houses down through there.
But it's to save the park.
Yeah. It was caused in the park.
Excuse me?
It was caused in the park, right? It was caused in the park.
What do you
Having to
mean?
go to Mudlick to fix it?
All down through there. There's more,
I'm
more,
not sure what you mean by.
more than just one place where this is happening.
What do you mean
It's
about?
farther on down. Beyond just where this is.
I think Lou's talking about they're doing work on both sides of the creek,
That's correct.
Ludwig side and Archer Park side. That's what he's talking
But
about.
the impetus to get this project started was because of a problem on the parks side of the creek,
That is correct.
Correct. Because of the-
which makes it eligible to use parks money.
I just,
I think the $10,000 a year or some amount
I'm the mouth.
for possible creek maintenance up to a certain point. Now, if we start putting $10,000 a year into a dedicated to creek maintenance, and we don't do any maintenance for 10, 15 years, and you got all this money laying there, that's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
a waste. So I would either stop or hold back or whatever.
Absolutely.
But we've had more than one problem with erosion along the roadway.
On the north, it's actually the north, on the north side of Astoria Bridge, starting in there toward the bike trail.
Right.
There's multiple problems coming. The reason this is so bad and so much is because it was lit.
Nothing was done.
Nothing was done. This could have been fixed with just some maintenance. Okay.
So as a board, we can think about this and then at our January 8th regular meeting, decide to fund it from the parks.
I will talk to the city
Or
and
to
we
the
will
city.
go from there.
Well, just like Mark said, though, if the city pays out of general fund, then we can't,
We don't have an option. We have to use general fund.
yeah, which we don't want to do.
I would think they would be all over using that extra money.
Absolutely. It won't hurt.
Because it won't come out of their
It won't
budget.
come out of their general fund, it won't come out of our general fund.
They would be getting
The problem
something out of
gets
it.
fixed and the money's sitting there not being used.
And they finally get all that parks money they've been hammering to release.
Exactly so.
And we make our point of, this is why we hold back money.
So for emergency projects such as this.
Next year.
So I think let's do it that
Maybe
way.
I could use that. We'll do it this year if you'll put $10,000 a year from now on.
Yeah, that would be the maintenance.
That's carrot.
Yeah, because again, I think it's all going to come out of the parks.
I think last month when we talked about this, there was a written report you were gonna try to find.
We did get that report.
Did you?
You know, 95 some thousand.
Could we get a copy of that?
Yes.
You mean, you have, or
Mhm.
you can send it to them.
Yeah.
That's not this proposal. That
I can
was a
send you
different-
both
That was
of them
a
if you
different company.
So the first one was the River Rangers at 93,000. This is called Channel Maintenance at 52,000.
Do you have a quote? or everything?
Yes.
And and you have references of
All
what
kinds,
they've done?
all kinds, since 1984.
I think if we're in agreement, I think that's the way to go. We approve it. We make the resolution on January 8th. Approve the use of holdback fund to pay for it.
Okay.
This would be a perfect way to use that money.
That frees up our ARPA money for another unbudgeted project, which I'm sure we can find one. I'm looking at the man who's saying yes.
Got plenty of those.
So, and by the way, we have to allocate that ARPA money by the end of next year. Even though we don't have to spend it until sometime in 2026, we have to have the project selected. So we should probably just plan to use it next year and not,
I did bring up 25,000 for the dump truck for the inflation in Jeremy Road Department at the last meeting. Keep that in mind.
yes, you did. So we'll have about 46,000 left after the door is replaced this week.
Okay, can we wrap that up?
Yes, sir.
Lou, are you done?
I'm done. Oh, I'm not done. All right, so just information here. I talked to Ryan Hodgson today. He's township for Jackson Township. He was telling me that the city of New Lebanon is trying to annex 23 acres of farmland, put up 82 low-income housing on Fools Road. He said that they're, of course, they were going to try to stop that, but the city commissioners can overrule their zoning laws and approve that.
County commission.
County commissioners, yeah.
commissioners.
Okay.
So is that a way to stop that?
Just throw a big fit.
Well, that's why he said he's gonna throw a big fit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he said they're gonna throw a big fit.
Where on,
Thought that was interesting.
where on Falls?
Must be right there at the city line.
Because you have to be bordering to annex.
Actually bordered the city limits. So it's at 23 acres of farmland to put up 82 low-income housing.
Okay, well, that affects New Lebanon and.
Oh, yeah, that's just, it's just information.
That it, Lou?
That's it. I'm
Thank
done.
you. Let me go through my report relatively quickly here. I attended the Germantown Council meeting on 12/4/23. The highlights. Police Chief McGill was recognized for 25 years as a chief. We did have a work session. The traffic engineer discussed two items: decreasing the speed limit from 35 to 25, extending it by 1 block either way in the middle of town. He said that's probably not going to be allowed by the state. Placing a 4-way stop on Main and Market as proposed by the revitalization consultant. He strongly advised against that. So that's not going to happen either. A grant was received for $10,000 for the playground at Hillcrest. It's going to need $4,500 in matching funds from parks. The city would have to lend the park board the funds. I question whether the parks can afford to go further in debt than they already are. Mayor Johnson will check with the Parks Board. They discussed a possible moratorium on adult cannabis dispensaries in Germantown. Member Reddick stated a resident wishes to open a dispensary. So that kind of leads to the next question. Should the township put forth a resolution provided by the OTA?
Dr. Cross, what was that?
Pardon?
Can you repeat that last part again?
Oh, Member Reddick stated that a resident wishes to open a dispensary in Germantown. A resident, yeah, so. So the question, should the township put forth a resolution provided by the OTA that Mark, I think, sent to us? Have you read that?
Yes.
Prohibiting adult use cannabis operations and medical marijuana, cultivators, processors, and retail dispensaries. I think at this time, the the recreational marijuana is in such flux as far as what the state is going to do that I don't think there's any big rush. But again, they actually sent us a template that we could just plug everything in. And if that's what the community wants to do, we can prohibit adult cannabis operations as well as medical.
I think we were given two options. We were given a prohibition as well as a regulation option.
So something we may want to think about. I don't think it's a big rush in any case.
Certainly, we're seeing that at a lot of communities
There'll be
around the area.
moratoriums on, right? Washington Township, Centerville, Kettering. I think if you're, that's fine. I think in our case, I think a moratorium is kind of a waste of time. Either you want it or you don't want it. In this community, from the input we got back from medical marijuana, that they really didn't want any of those cultivators, processors, or dispensers. Again, it's something, excuse me, we may discuss, but again, I don't think, until the laws are kind of firmed up, I think it's no big rush. So, because most of the recreational cannabis dispensaries are going to come from the medicinal cannabis. Those dispensaries are just going to start the recreational cannabis. So we talked, Jake talked about this a little bit. So we talked about whether the township should purchase the township education subscription, which is $250 to attend new OTA webinars, but more importantly, to attend archive webinars in the OTA Resource Center, including OTA conference webinars. It's probably worth the $250 to sign up for that.
Did you determine for sure that unless we buy this, we can't get into the archives?
I did not. So that's why let's kind of go back. We'll wait until after the first of the year and see if we cannot, if it prohibits us.
Sure, there's one of the sessions, I think, at the OTA conference may deal with this. So if you want to wait and make that decision, then that's all you can do.
I think let's wait. Yeah. So that is all I have for my report. I'd like to move to go into.
Yeah, me.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's
Jay.
okay. I'll be quick, I promise. Okay,
Okay,
tell me when you're ready. You ready?
I'm ready. Thank you.
All right, I'll start with the cemetery. On this Saturday, there will be a wreath laying ceremony, which is, just left my mind. It's the
Wreaths across-
Wreaths Across America. Thank you. This Saturday at noon, Valley View High School was kind enough to announce through David Short that if anybody wants to volunteer, just show up, and which is the invite is to all of you and anyone as well to show up on Saturday at noon for this ceremony. Last year he did a great job. I know there's a lot less wreaths this year, but it's still meaningful, and it was a really nice ceremony last year, and I expect the same from Mr. Short this year. Staying with the Valley View topic, the student workday that was scheduled for last month was canceled due to poor weather that day, and they're going to be contacting the cemetery again in the spring when they do another have another volunteer opportunity. The mowers that we ordered that weren't supposed to be in are in, so we're going to go through first of the year. We're going to have the mowers delivered and have a couple to sell on Gov Deals. So we're going to have 2 new mowers. The cost was someplace in total just over $13,000 for the 2. So those are going to be coming in. Bob Rohrbach is doing
Did you say again?
13,000
Together.
total. Yep. So, yep. Bob Rohrbach is doing a fantastic job as he's stepping up and as our fiscal officer at the moment and getting us on track. So I appreciate him doing that. The cemetery loan. So going back to like 2006, the land next to the cemetery was purchased by the cemetery through a loan at Germantown that we loaned them the money. Bob made the final payment of that loan. I believe you have that.
I do. I will report that as part of our December transactions.
Okay. So the payments are complete there. So we won't be getting any more money from the cemetery. The loan is completely paid off.
That's correct.
So that frees up some money for us at the cemetery. We're looking to have some equipment repairs and replacements in the next year or so. So the cemetery loan is complete. Mark, can you resend the sick/vacation policy down? It's lost in translation someplace.
Which policies?
The vacations and sick time policy.
Sure.
I'll
send it.
I know you send them to me anyway. Yeah, and they can't find it. So they asked.
That doesn't problem.
Yeah, so they asked that. So, other than that, the cemetery looks good. Keith is doing a fantastic job. He just brings new ideas and just overall energy, and we appreciate the job he's doing there. So I'm passing down to you guys now. I'll switch to the sunshine in a bag payment. Julie Smith she sent it to me in a text message. I couldn't figure out how to print it, so I copied and pasted it into an email and I printed it for you. They were low on funds and they definitely appreciated our donation. I dropped it off this past week to Ruby Harp at the First Church of God. I did not take a picture opportunity though. It's not my thing, but they were very appreciative. The money's going to go to good use. And I just wanted to pass along the thank you that she had sent back. I guess it was pretty good timing for us to get the money to them. Mark Keener left, but I'd like to thank him for stepping up for 4 more years on the JED board. That's a big deal. He's the one who has the most knowledge on that board. So that's a big deal. And lastly, I'd like to congratulate Chief Birch on his appointment as chief. You know, we it's kind of a sudden change that we had to make. And during Chief's time at German Township as a sergeant and before, he's always been an outstanding employee. He's demonstrated characteristics that make him the perfect fit for the job. Some of the characteristics I highlighted for Chief Birch are integrity, honesty, you're a team player, you're an effective communicator, courage, confidence, and I love that you have a positive attitude about everything. So thank you for stepping up, and we look forward to many years with you as our chief here at German Township. And That concludes my report.
Could you read those words, those adjectives again?
I'll just give them to you, but I can read them if you'd like, but
I think we should read them again too.
well, now you have them.
Key characteristics, integrity, honesty, team player, effective communicator, courage, confidence, and a positive attitude.
So
That will be in the minutes.
Bill, I have a question for you that you're here. So does the marijuana law change EDIS? So is he not going to be able to?
Something we've been discussing over the last few weeks. I can talk about this for hours, we're not going to. He is dependent on the odor of marijuana. Now that issue two's passed.
Can you come up so we have it on the recording?
Now that issue two has passed, it's some issues. I know the sheriff's office did bench a couple of their dogs. It was a good bench. He just is going to be 8 years old in the spring, around the age we had talked about retiring him. And the chief and I have talked about it. We're going to have some more talks about it. He is also a patrol dog, so he still is used for tracking, article searches, apprehension. So he does have some use left. It's not that he can't. We can still use him in the schools. Possession of marijuana under 21 is still legal. Search warrants and things like that. So it's something we're going to discuss next few months. But his retirement also was up for discussion as well. So keep it posted.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Fair enough.
So
Good question.
A quick question about to the voters, real quick.
Sure.
Did they purchase those under either like Sourcewell or state bid?
It was state bid through Canning.
And make sure they got the best price.
We did. We got
And
the,
there's
yeah,
several different competitive
yep,
markets you can go through.
yes.
So.
So one of the things we're looking at now, and it was actually Sourcewell was what the bid came up is Canning had loaned us a gator for the volunteer day that the kids were not able to come to. So Keith got to use it. So he's spoiled. So he got it for a couple of days. So we're going to look at purchasing the plan is to look at purchasing a UTV of some sort this coming year with a snow blade and a spreader. So we can salt, we can clear snow, and then use it year round. Cause I mean, he's getting, I mean, when you can go, you're all over the cemetery. So
I just want to make sure they were using some sort of.
yes, yep, absolutely.
So they got the best pricing.
We did get the best
One of
price.
those, you don't know how you live without.
Yeah, so we're looking at that. Our budget's gonna be a little tight in the levy going on this year. We're doing what we can. We're trying to make it as efficient as possible for them to get their job done. And then, so yeah, there's some changes I think we're gonna be looking at this year, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. But yeah, that's all I've got.
thanks, Jake. Okay. All right, back to that. I move to go into executive session per ORC 121.22G1 to consider the employment of a public employee. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Easton, may I have a roll call vote?
Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
It's now 8:38. The board will now move into executive session with the trustees, Mr. Easton and Chief Birch attending.
We'll be back.
Morning on that.
All right, it's now 8:49. I move to return to open session. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Seeing no other business, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Who did the, did you do a motion, Mark?
Yeah.
Adjourn? Okay, second.
Hey, before you vote, the last meeting of the year, last regular meeting of the year, Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you all for coming. It's been a great year. And thank you to the board. It's nice to have a board that works together and tries to get the best interest of the township taken care of. So just add that.
All in favor of the adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at, let's call that 8:50.